Hi, I'm Liz Thompson with Art of Home team here with Bob Smith with Aslan Home Lending. I'm excited to get to know Bob a little bit more. How long have you been in the lending world?
So the lending industry is a second career for me. I got my license in 2016. Prior to that, I was in medical device sales for a little over 10 years.
Okay. What kind of medical devices did you sell?
I started out in general surgery selling surgical staplers and things used for laparoscopic surgery. And then I worked for a couple different companies in the cardiac cath lab, helping people burr out arteries so that they could successfully place a stent. It's quite a bit different than doing home loans.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes.
It was a great career, but I got sick of working for corporate America, and I wanted to do something more independent and with a smaller organization.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you had any other small jobs like in college that were fun or unique or anything like that?
I wouldn't say anything that was particularly fun or unique. In college, I worked at a very high-end wine shop, so that was fun.
Okay.
However, a lot of my paychecks went directly back to the store. I sold radio advertising for a period of time after college, and then I worked.
That reminds me of the movie City Slickers.
Very much so.
Yes.
Very much so.
You sold air.
That's right. I sold air, and then I sold copiers for a number of years, which was a miserable job, but I was really good at it, and that's what got me recruited into the medical device world.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. What are some of your hobbies and interests outside of work?
Yeah, I love to go see live music. That's probably my favorite thing to do. I'm a very avid fisherman. Other than that, I like cooking, I like going out to eat, I like hanging out with my wife and my dog.
What kind of fishing do you like to do? Do you like to do like fly fishing or?
So I grew up in the Midwest, so it was a lot of spin fishing. There's many more lakes there than there are out here. Since I've moved to Colorado, I have gotten into fly fishing, but my favorite thing to do is inshore saltwater that obviously I have to travel to do from here, but try to do that at least once every couple years.
Well, what's your favorite body of water to go fishing in?
Venice, Louisiana, which is known as the sport fishing capital of the world.
Yes.
Is my favorite place that I've ever been.
Okay. I've definitely heard of that, being from the Gulf Coast.
Yes, exactly.
So, what do you love most about being a lender?
I really like helping people grow wealth through real estate. And that goes a lot of different ways. There's obviously investors that are buying and selling multiple properties and making money that way, but there's also a statistic that 99% of all millionaires got that way through real estate. So even when you're helping somebody buy their first home, you're putting them on a path to financial success. And I really enjoy that. I tell people oftentimes that I'll always miss the patient care aspect of my jobs in healthcare, but I really do get the same satisfaction helping people out financially as I did quite literally helping save people's lives.
And I think it's the same for me as having a background in education, having that advisor, that counselor, somebody that they would always come to and ask questions. My favorite year in high school was always the freshmen because they're like little sponges.
Absolutely.
And so that's how I see first-time home buyers, and that they will just, that they need to know kind of everything about home ownership. So walking through that process is a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and I find it, as long as you do the best job you can of making people feel comfortable and truly understanding that there is no such thing as a dumb question, you can really educate people and help them have a great experience and make a good decision.
Yeah, and make them feel a part of the process, that everything is not really happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
But there's transparency in that process as well. What is a day in the life of a lender? What does that look like?
Day in the life of a lender. I thought you may ask me that. There's a number of different things that you need to do. First and foremost, it's a referral-based business. So there has to be some element of prospecting every day, meeting with people like yourselves, meeting with past clients, meeting with people that have been recently referred to me. Of course, there is some day-to-day of getting loans done. I have a team that works with me on that, but I'm always checking in and making sure everything's going as smoothly as I like. And then I would say the last part of the day is dealing with whatever arises. As you know, in real estate, there's an expression that says there's no such thing as a real estate emergency, but there's a lot of things that could certainly feel like one.
Yes. It's either a fire or a celebration.
Exactly. So you deal with those things as they come, and try to shield your clients from those issues as best you can. And keep everybody's experience positive.
Yes. Tell me about your team. Who is kind of in the background helping you out?
Yeah, absolutely. Primarily, it's one person. Her name is Christy Allen, and she is my processor. So the general process is if somebody comes to me to get approved, I will meet with them. I will help them go through the application process. Once they are under contract, I will turn it over to Chrissy for Chrissy to review the file, see what documents might need to be updated, and she goes through the process of submitting the file to underwriting and managing the logistics to make sure the loan goes through the process as efficiently as possible. But I remain my client's main point of contact, and it really is a team.
Yeah. Like I have Adam Roberts, which is our contract coordinator, and so he makes sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and we're all staying in compliance.
Yeah.
So,
I work with transaction managers like Adam all the time.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. How far in advance should a potential buyer start talking to a lender? 3 months, 6 months, the week of? What do you think?
I would encourage people to do it as soon as possible. It's very often the case that people go see a realtor before they go see a lender. I always say that's because it's more fun to look at houses than it is to show somebody your finances.
Right. Or discuss them.
Yeah, or discuss them. It really is better to talk to a lender first. And I've had people that I've worked with for, north of 2 years before they finally bought a house. The sooner we talk, the sooner we can address any potential issues. And I always tell people that the answer is never no. It may be not right now, and there may be some things we need to do to put you in a better place to buy a home, but I'm willing to do the amount of work that needs to be done for as long as it needs to be done to do that.
Okay, because when people come to me on the real estate side and they want to go see houses, I said, well, have you talked to a lender? So I always push it back.
Yeah, and on that side of things too, we can work very quickly. If somebody calls you and wants to see a house, they can call me, and within a matter of hours, I can tell you if they're qualified to see said house.
Right. Just setting those expectations are extremely important.
Yeah. So we can work as fast or as slow as you'd like us to.
Okay. Do you do any debt recovery counseling, or do you have a place that you refer people to if they need to have that situation?
I have some basic knowledge of how to manage the FICO scoring system and credit reports and that kind of stuff, and I can certainly provide people with some help in getting credit scores up if that's something that we need to do. And I also have a number of credit improvement services that I work with that I refer people out to if needed.
Okay. What type of loan programs does Aslan Home Lending offer?
Yeah, so Aslan quite literally has every program under the sun. We're a broker, which means rather than being the bank or the actual lender, I broker for about 75, 80 wholesale investors. The bulk of the loans that we do are what they call agency loans. So those are conventional loans or the government loans, conventional being Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, you've heard those terms. Right. And then there's, on the government side, there's FHA, VA, and USDA.
Okay.
Most of the loans fall into that category, but again, being a broker and having access to all those investors, we can do all sorts of things. If somebody doesn't fit in those neat little boxes, we always have an option.
Okay. Can you tell me about PMI?
Sure.
What does that mean? What does it stand for? How does that work? And
Yeah.
what is it going to cost somebody?
So PMI is often considered kind of a dirty word when you're trying to get a home loan. But where PMI comes from is there's a myth out there that you need 20% down to buy a home with a conventional loan. That is 100% a myth. A first-time home buyer can use a conventional loan to buy a home with as little as 3% down. However, whenever you put less than 20% down, there will be an element of PMI or private mortgage insurance. It's very often a much less of an expense that people are anticipating. It's based primarily on your credit score and how much you are putting down.
Okay.
So if you put 3% down, the mortgage insurance is going to be higher than if you put 10% down or 15% down, because that's a riskier loan for the investor because you have smaller skin in the game.
Right.
But I personally think PMI is a great thing. Basically, if you can get into a home sooner, you can realize the appreciation and equity of that home a lot sooner than waiting to save up for that 20%.
Can a homeowner get rid of their PMI on their mortgage payment? How does that work?
Absolutely. Generally, depending on the loan program, you need to have it for 2 years. At that point, if the house is appreciated enough to get you past that 20% threshold, we can usually get it taken away. And it's always our goal, if we refinance, to drop the PMI.
How does a homeowner find out if they've reached that 20% threshold?
I always say it's a good idea to go talk to your real estate agent.
Yeah, and pull
do a
comps.
CMA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Yes.
How is the interest rate determined for a buyer? So if they see in the media right now that interest rates are plummeting, they're dropping, but I go talk to somebody and it's at 6.8. How does that determine? How does that work?
Yeah, so there's a number of different factors that go into qualifying for a loan, and all of those things can affect a buyer's interest rate. I always tell people that the rate on one loan is the rate for that one loan. Mm-hmm. There's three main things. There's your credit, which is your credit score, your FICO score. There are the assets that you have, so that dictates your down payment, as well as in some cases if you need reserves for larger loans or anything like that. And then there's your debt to income ratio. Your debt to income ratio is basically your expenses versus your monthly gross income.
Right. Okay.
All of those things will affect a person's rate. I always tell people that it makes a lot more sense to talk to a lender and get an idea of what your situation looks like rather than using what you find on Google or hear on the news or anything like that.
How is a buyer pre-approved? Is it mainly based on the wholesale price of the home, like the final price of the home, or is it on the monthly payment?
You know, that's a really good question, Liz, because when I do speak to people so as not to confuse them, I do generally tell them that they're approved for a price range up to this amount. However, what they're really approved to is that monthly payment, because it goes back to that debt to income ratio that we spoke about. So it is true that, you know, as taxes vary, insurance varies.
And all that goes up.
The amount of mortgage insurance varies from one house to another. That could change the amount that they're approved for. But I really try to focus people not so much on what they can be approved for, but what they feel they can comfortably afford. It's not at all uncommon for somebody to be approved for way more than they're comfortable spending on a monthly basis.
Right.
So I really focus with people about their expenses, their budgets, their lifestyle, and help give you a price range to show them homes that work with that.
I remember when my husband and I bought our first home, and that was in 2005, and we were approved for $450,000. Now this was in the South, so prices were a little bit different. And we were like, there's just no way we're doing that. And so we ended up buying a home in the 225 price range and loved it, and it was perfect for us. So I definitely
had the same
agree.
experience that I take to heart every single day. I had a mortgage lender when I purchased my first home that was pushing me towards $800,000 homes. I bought my home in Sunnyside for $300,000.
Very nice.
Because that's where I was comfortable.
Right.
So it's important to me that people don't feel pressured
exactly
to buy more than they feel they can afford.
Right, because you still want to go on vacation. You still want to go enjoy the mountains. You still want to live your life, yes, which we call you don't want to be house poor.
That's right.
Yes. What are some myths? You've talked about the 20% down. What are some other myths that you hear from buyers in the day-to-day lending world?
The 20% down is by far the biggest one.
Okay.
Another myth out there would just be how complicated the approval process can be. You know, like I said earlier, I mean, it can be done in a matter of hours if it needs to be.
When you first talk to somebody, I know I have clients sometimes that are concerned that you'll do a hard pull on credit. so they don't want their credit dinged in a way. So can you look and have a conversation with somebody without doing a hard pull?
Absolutely.
Or how does that work?
Absolutely. Okay. So, it all depends on where we are in the process.
Okay.
There's some people that we just talk through what their credit looks like if we're just in the very initial stages. There are other people that if we need to get a better look at that, we can do what's a soft pull that doesn't hit your credit at all. The third option that you eventually do need to do to get full loan approval is a hard pull. But for the vast majority of people, unless you're getting your credit pulled all the time, that really has no impact on your credit score. And there's another important thing that you should make sure your clients are aware of that a lot of lenders don't like to tell people because they don't want them to shop around. You can have your credit pulled as many times as you want for mortgage purposes within 30 days, and it only counts as one pull.
Oh, okay. So that's good to know.
A lot of people don't
had no idea.
tell people that because they don't want them to go see other lenders.
Right. Yeah. So now my nemesis is Zillow. So sometimes that can steer people in the wrong way. How do you feel about websites like Credit Karma when people are looking at their credit score on Credit Karma versus what you will actually see? So I've seen some big score differences in those two.
I have nothing against those sites. I think they can be very helpful. But what you see on a Credit Karma or if you have a Chase card or whatever, they tell you what your score is. What you're seeing there is a consumer score. The consumer score is for things like getting a credit card or buying a car. It's a different algorithm than a mortgage score. There are instances where they line up perfectly. So if somebody has a 760 here, they have a 760 there. But oftentimes, mortgage scores can be 30 to 50 points lower, which is why, the ability to pull it without having more than one pull on your credit report or even using a soft pull is a great tool to get an idea to help somebody budget and make decisions. That kind of stuff.
Is it best for someone to go straight to one of the credit unions to look at their credit score? What's the best so they have a good idea if it's that big of a difference?
I would always encourage people to have a mortgage broker like myself pull their credit. At least do a soft pull. The vast majority of lenders will do that at no charge. I certainly do.
Because the element of surprise can be...
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean, you don't want to think that you have an 800 credit score and then find out it's a 680.
Right.
Because the difference in your interest rate is going to be, not that 680 is bad, and we can certainly get a loan done, but your rate's going to be a bit higher. And so you want to know what you're looking at. And that goes back to our earlier conversation about helping people plan and put them in a better situation. There are things we can do to get those scores up if we know that's something that needs to be done.
How long have you lived in Denver?
I moved out to Denver for a year or two in 2004.
Okay.
So I've been here, just celebrated 20 years.
So you mentioned that you lived out here for a year, you moved out here for a year or two and then you got hooked and stayed?
That was my plan. My plan was to come out here and ski for a couple years.
Okay.
And I never left. I met my wife shortly after that. She's a Colorado native, born and raised in Vail.
Very nice.
And this is home.
I think that happens to a lot of people.
It does.
Yeah, my family was not happy when we bought our first house here, but we're stuck. We're here. We love it so much. What is your favorite part about living in Denver?
Access to the mountains and the outdoors, for sure.
Are you still an avid skier?
I used to be. I've had some injuries that I've had to deal with, but I'm hopeful that I'm going to get back on skis this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me your most recent success story.
My most recent success story, just yesterday, we closed a loan for some people that had a number of different things that we needed to utilize. They had a previous bankruptcy. They needed down payment assistance. They really didn't think that home ownership was something that was possible. I met them in late July, and we closed yesterday.
Nice. Okay.
And they are over the moon.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, since you mentioned bankruptcy, if somebody does file for bankruptcy, what's the wait period between filing and purchasing a home?
So that's going to be a bit different depending on your bankruptcy scenario.
Okay.
And also what loan programs you're looking at. So it really goes back to having somebody look at your credit and finding out what the discharge date of that bankruptcy was. Oftentimes people think of the date as the filing date. It's
Right.
not the filing date, it's the date it was discharged. But also, going back to Aslan and being a broker, we have a number of programs that they call something like a bankruptcy a major derogatory event,
Right.
where you can get a loan within a year of
Okay.
that. FHA is 2 years, conventional is 3 or 4, because I don't remember.
I had a client that did a deed in lieu one
Yeah,
time, and they had to wait 4 years.
Yeah. I really appreciate you having me.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.